Hello, everybody, and welcome to our weekly Sage Intacct demo. I'm Neil Gabarnik, a Sage Intacct sales consultant here at Vision 33, and with me presenting the demo is Matthew Frampton, who is our solutions consultant. Before we move to the demo, just a little information about Vision 33. Selecting the right software is important, but the right partner is the real difference maker for your business. A few things Vision 33 brings to the table. Extensive support and industry experience. We have many longtime customers who rely on our partnership to support their business, and we're a leader in the Sage community. Implementation is just the beginning of your journey. Vision 33 is here for long-term support and customer care. Ultimately, it's our consistency, reliability, focus on excellent customer experiences, and leveraging our knowledge to help you transform accounting frustrations into success and strategic growth. And like Sage, Vision 33 is a global company, but we like to say we operate as a small business. Our main operations are in the US, Canada, and the UK, and we have certified consultants to serve you locally. Here are some of our excellent customers running Sage Intacct. They come from all over the spectrum, including nonprofit, SaaS, and technology, professional services, and more. I'm sure most of you have done your initial research on Sage Intacct, but here are a few highlights. As you can see, Sage Intacct supports several industries and offers industry-specific functionality. Vision 33's biggest customer footprint is nonprofit, where we have approximately 35% of our client base. Building expertise in these verticals really helps us guide our customers down the right path with their implementation, including your sector's best practices for reporting. And here's a quick snapshot of Sage's global reach. Sage has millions of customers worldwide and personalized customer support. Customers usually cut their close time by up to 70%. And here's another snapshot that shows Sage Intacct's global reach, serving customers in 80 plus countries and in 130 plus functional currencies. And if you're interested in the underlying numbers, Sage Intacct is as secure as it gets. You no longer need to worry about backups, downtime, and costly upgrades. It just works all the time. Sage Intacct isn't a solution
Yeah.
that was retrofitted for the cloud. It's a cloud native solution from its first line of code. So it's an affordable, easy to use solution for finance teams that need only specialized finance tools. It's also a modular solution, which means you pay only for what you need now, and you can add more functionality when you need it. We call Sage Intacct a best of breed solution, and its open API makes it easy to seamlessly integrate with other best of breed solutions. And for integrations, Sage has what's called the Sage Intacct Marketplace, filled with pre-built integrations to other best-of-breed solutions for CRM, e-commerce, and so much more. And if the solution you want to integrate isn't on the Sage Intacct Marketplace, Vision 33 can build the integration for you with Saltbox, which is our exclusive cloud-based integration solution built by our automation and integration experts. And just a final word about Sage Intacct's embedded AI. While it's not built into our demo environment just yet, we want to introduce you to Sage Copilot. Basically, Sage Copilot is like getting a very smart productivity assistant. It gives you answers you can trust and tools for a smoother, faster month-end close. So be sure to ask your consultant about Sage Copilot when they follow up with you. And now I'll turn it over to Matthew for the demo. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Neil. Hi, everyone. As Neil mentioned, I'm Matthew. You would normally be able to see me, but unfortunately today, just not able to get my camera working, but it's not me that's important to see today anyhow. I'm going to walk us through our demo of Intacct today. Next, I'd just like to remind everybody that it is a native cloud environment, which means you'll be able to access it anywhere, anytime. You're no longer restricted to having a program installed on particular devices. It is 100% browser-based. So as long as you have a device that can access the internet and an internet connection, you can log into your environment and do everything you see me do today. So no on-prem servers, no server maintenance costs, no server security costs, just a true cloud environment. Next would be updates to the solution. So I know with on-prem solutions and older solutions, when an update is released for that solution, part of the responsibility is passed along to you to confirm the update, install the update. Not the case with Intacct. Intacct updates automatically 4 times per year, and there's zero that you have to do. In fact, there's no way to even stop it. Like it just happens inherently. So you log out on a Friday, when you log in on the following Monday of the release, it is installed on your solution. It's a very seamless update. It's not going to break third-party integrations. It's not going to make the solution unavailable to you. You know, if you log in during that weekend, it may be a little slower than it normally would be as they're pushing updates through to everybody, but the solution would still be available to you. But again, it happens over a weekend, so certainly the lower volume of working hours. And it doesn't really ever cause any issues, with any solution update. Every now and then you'll find a little bug in there and it gets hot fixed very quickly. But those little issues that we see with the updates, first of all, they don't happen every update. They're rare in occurrence to begin with. And when they do occur, it's never anything major. It's not like I can't post journal entries or I can't pay my vendors or my vendors aren't getting my payment remittances. It's always like this checkbox used to be turned on by default, but now it isn't type of thing. And you have to click the checkbox until it gets hotfixed, which is generally under a week. So very low impact that way. If you are curious as to what updated with the most recent release, you can click on read the release notes. Right now, I'm coming into the release notes for R1 of 2026, which actually will not get released until next Friday. So, a little over a week before the actual release itself, you'll get access into here so that you're able to kind of get a head start on what's about to change. You can watch a highlights video, which will tell you what's going to change, give you some highlights, and then you can come out and drill into the reading material. So you can really see that they're not small updates. In the upcoming release, we're seeing updates to AP, and there's some big updates in AP. There's updates for AR, not as many as AP, but there are some in AR. And then we have some in cash management. And then we have some in contracts and expenses, fixed asset management, the GL, inventory and supply. So some really great stuff with these updates. You'll also get access to the release calendar, which tells you when each release will occur throughout the year. These updates are in stone. They don't miss these dates. They're very hard targets for Sage. So you can expect the releases to occur on these dates. And once R1 is fully released, you'll still have access into this exact page. It'll just be it's now released, not just upcoming. With all of that said, let's look at some actual functionality. So Intacct does a lot of things really well. Your core accounting modules, the AP module is easy to use and paying vendors is simple. The AR module is simple to use and makes life easy. Same thing with GL. Like the core accounting modules, they're very well built, they're very intuitive, they're very user friendly, and it's everything you could really want. There's some nice bells and whistles in here, like accounts payable, the ability to edit transactions after they've been posted. Some solutions let you do that, some solutions don't. Intacct does. But where Intacct differs is even if an AP invoice, Intacct calls them bills. So if you hear me say bills, that is what I'm referring to. If a bill is paid, if you've marked that bill as paid, and after you've paid it, you realize I coded that to the wrong GL account or I coded it to the wrong department, you're still able to edit those transactions even after they've been paid. You can only change certain things, such as your GL account, your dimensional values, things that don't affect the vendor. You wouldn't be able to change the amount because you've made a payment, so that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But it really has like little options like that that'll really help prevent the amount of manual journal entries you need to do. So it does all of those things really well. It has some more advanced modules if you want to build on, like if you have inventory and you want the inventory control, if you're a projects type company and you want a project costing and billing company or module, you build on that module. But at its core and where it separates itself from competition, in my opinion, comes from its financial reporting. So the financial reporting in Intacct is absolutely phenomenal. As an accountant myself, I'll never really have a whole lot of bad things to say about Excel. If you're in accounting and you don't like Excel, maybe the wrong industry. It's a very powerful tool and it's been around for a very long time and we all use it. But my goal still will be during an implementation to help you avoid having to export data into Excel and manually manipulate it to get the reports that you need to get. And I can do that 95% of the time throughout all of my projects. There's always an outlier, right? There's always some use case that pops up on one or two projects where, okay, we have to do a little bit of manipulation out in Excel. But 95% of the time, I can turn any report that you're looking for or you need for your business to drive decision making or for everyday use or for month-end close, I can turn all of those reports into the push of a button 95% of the time. What makes all of that possible out of Intacct comes from what Intacct calls dimensions. So for anybody not familiar with dimensions, it certainly is a different accounting term. It's not something you come across every day in accounting or financial accounting solution. Think of them as sub-accounts. So if you think of a segmented chart of accounts where you would have your GL account with a dash and then you have a sub-account afterwards to help you track financial data across those different sub-accounts. That is really the only tool that you would have at your disposal to do it. In Intacct, you'll never need sub-accounts. You will use what we call dimensions. The most commonly used dimension is certainly the department dimension, so that's what I use for my demo. But in this case, to kind of solidify what I just said, if you had 20 GL accounts that you wanted to be able to track across your 5 different departments, you would actually, in a system that uses segmented chart of accounts, you would actually end up with 100 GL accounts to account for that, right? You would need GL account 1-100, GL account 1-200, 300, 400, 500, and then you move on to GL account 2-100, 300, 400, 500. And then every time you make a new department or you have a new GL account that you want to be able to track the financial data across, you're not making one GL account. You're making 5 GL accounts or 20 GL accounts kind of at the end of the day. So the first thing that these dimensions will do is they'll help you fine tune your chart of accounts, really keep it to its core. Your chart of accounts will only have the core GL account number, and that can take you from having hundreds upon hundreds of GL accounts down to, somewhere between 1 or 200. And that's still even a little high for what we generally see out of Intacct. And what you'll get is the exact same power as you would have using sub accounts plus more. So the way it works in Intacct is when I'm coding a transaction, I can code a transaction to any GL account, and I can pick and choose whether or not I should tag a department on that line level. Now, I can make department mandatory on certain GL accounts. So, companies that their primary driver is their department, they want every P&L account to always have a department tagged. I can make that happen. It's very easy to do. But in general, you can use and tag any dimension or any number of dimensions when you're coding a transaction. And like I said, you kind of just determine which ones are relevant to you or not. So if I were coding an AP transaction out of Intacct, maybe I'm recording utility expenses or rent. You can pick your vendor. Now I can use my drop-down list here and find a vendor scrolling. I can also start typing and the system will filter for me. So I can start typing consulting grid or I can start typing national and you see I get national grid and national insurance. And then I can use my keyboard to navigate as well. It's full of keyboard shortcuts. I can put in my the vendor invoice number, again, bill in Intacct. Then I set up my terms. And I scroll down and okay, so insurance is set as the default GL account for national insurance. That makes sense. I can override this default expense account, but it's just brought in here to just, increase keying time and reduce keying errors. But if I wanted to allocate out my insurance expense across my 5 different departments, I don't have to worry about memorizing 5 different GLs. I just tag the same GL account on every line level. And when I get to my department list here, I pick and choose the amount for each department. Maybe we're doing it based off of head count or square footage taken up by each department in the office building. I don't know. But you can see here, I can just pick and choose. Now, I don't have to do that. Maybe the whole insurance expense is for one department. I could code this for the full 170 and tag it to the one department that it is related to. But for allocating out costs, the dimensions are very powerful. And I can tag any number of dimensions that I want on each line level. I can tag a department. I can also tag a location. I could tag a class. And now in this system, we have class renamed to be community. If you look at the names there, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Somebody just done it as a demo example, but I could tag a community. And if you are, whatever dimensions you are tagging, they don't need to be hidden down in this extra section that I'm showing. I can say, community is, what did I click? It doesn't want to move for me. Normally I can click and drag this up. It's actually letting me do it with like my 1099. I've got a little something to look in here, but normally we would be able to drag this up and put it on the line level for you so that every dimension you need is easily accessed. Now, what this does for you is It makes it really easy to slice and dice your financial reports or isolate certain data you need to isolate to drive decision-making processes, whatever it is you need to do, because I can use these dimensions to filter reports or expand reports throughout the entire system. Beginning at the core report, really, for any accounting system, your general ledger detail report by dimension. I'm going to run this report for 2019 because that is when the data in my system environment exists. I can filter for a certain range of GL accounts. Like if I only wanted to run it for my P&L accounts, I can pick a range of P&L accounts. I can individually select any number of accounts that I want to. Like I can take an asset account, I can take another asset account, I could take my retained earnings, I could pick out some P&Ls. So you can pick and choose like any number of accounts that you need if you don't want a full range, if there are particular GLs you're doing some analysis on. Or I can say run it for all of my accounts. Now, I'm going to run it for all my P&Ls because it's just the best for this demo. And then the GL report in Intacct has something I haven't seen too often, which is the ability to decide certain data you see when you run a GL detail report. So if I want to be able to tell where each line on my GL detail report was coded to, not just the GL account number, but the dimensional value, I can pick and choose which dimensional values will appear on my GL detail report. And I can go ahead and click view, and I'll get a pretty standard GL detail report. I do need to filter for location because I'm at the top level here. And we'll just let it load in. So you see now I just have a pretty standard GL detail report. I'm seeing some dimensional values, like I can see these lines were coded to the services department and service line one as the class. As I scroll down, we'll start seeing some more variation, like all of our revenue really going to services or sales. But when I get down into some operating expenses, we'll start to see the different dimensional values. The department is really a driver in the system. So you can see it just on every line here. Now, maybe I'm doing some analysis on my admin department or my marketing department or my IT department, and I want to isolate my data. As I'm running my general ledger detail report, I can filter for a particular department and I can say, bring it, show it to me for my sales department only. And when I click view, you're going to notice that that column on my GL detail report will only return sales. So now it's only showing me transactions that were tagged to my sales department. And you can use multiple filters. Maybe I'm doing an analysis on my sales department plus my mid-sized business class. I can, on my GL detail report, tell the system that only show me transactions that are tagged to both my sales department and my mid-sized business class. And when I run it, you'll see it filter down even more and get even more isolated. And that's kind of the way you can run GL detail report for analysis. Now, this is really important because the fact that this happens here at the line level of every GL transaction, whether it's a journal entry, an AP transaction, an AR transaction, it doesn't matter. That allows me to do the same thing on financial reports. So if I were looking at a financial report, a P&L, a balance sheet, it really doesn't matter. So if I find a basic P&L here, I'll run my basic P&L and we'll go ahead and run a basic P&L. I've chosen the columns to show here. So I've chosen to show my current month, my prior month, a variation, a month over month variation, and then my current entire fiscal year to date. So these columns are dynamic. If I change my report and say now I want to run it for October, you'll notice that it follows my as of date. So now my current month is October, my prior month is September analysis and full year to date to October. So a fairly standard P&L. Maybe after looking at this, you say, I want to see a P&L across all of my different departments. You'll have a separate report ready to go, and we'll run that report this time. And this will basically do the same thing, except I don't have current month and prior month. I just have year to date. But with a click, I'm getting a P&L broken out by my different departments in the system. So these reports are fully drillable. If you click on the dollar value, that's going to bring you back to a GL detail report. If you click on a dollar value from a GL detail report, it'll bring you to a source transaction. Everything here that you're seeing, these are allocations, so everything's actually a journal entry. So if I click here, it's going to bring me to a journal entry, which is a little lackluster. So I'm going to go into some marketing expenses and see if I can find an P transaction so that you can see the full drill down like to a source transaction. General journal. Here we go. So these are APJs, and we can see the description here is a bill. So this means it's an AP bill. If I click on a dollar value from here, it will bring me back not just to the journal entry, to the source transaction. So I go right back to the bill. From the bill, I can see the journal entry on my posting details tab, but it's nice to get back to the source transaction with your drill down. So very similar to the GL detail report, if I wanted to isolate a department, I can do so using my filters, right? I can come out and drill down here and say, show it just to me for my services department. And now all of a sudden I get exactly that, just a P&L for my services department. So it's really nice and easy to do. Another few things that are really simple to do with reports, like that expand by department is actually really simple to do. People always say it's great. You had another report ready to go, but like how difficult would that be for us to do? I'll show you how difficult it is to do, which is not at all, but we'll come into the column. I'll take it off. I'll say do not expand, and I'll just show you. I'll run it live. This is what it looks like right now, right? So you already have this report. This report would already be built for you at its core. When you want to have it broken out by department or any other dimension in the system, you would simply duplicate your first report, like I did, and give it a different name, year to date by department. And then you'll come in and you'll choose what you want to expand it by. So if I want to expand it by departments, like we just seen, I just click set and I run the report, and there it is. Maybe I want a fiscal year to date report that is broken out month over month. Instead of expanding by departments, I can expand by quarters or by months. And I click preview. And there it is, broken out by month. Again, still be filterable by department and so on. So you get all of that power. So the financial reporting capabilities are really, really strong. Generally, there'll be no need to ever export out to Excel and modify any data to get your financial reports or even any, ad hoc reports like a custom report on accounts payable transactions or anything like that. Like generally, we can build every report that you're going to need right out of the system. Building off of financial reports comes the dashboard functionality in Intacct. The dashboard functionality in here is really great, especially for a lot of your maybe higher up users like your CFO or your CEO. They don't want to see the nitty gritty. They want to see a nice summary, right? And dashboards can really be used to do that quite easily. You can have any number of dashboards in your system. There's no limit. So you can see in my system here, I have it's like 30 or 40, I believe. And you can do that in your system. There's no limit to the amount you can have. There's no add-on. There's no extra charge for every dashboard. And on a dashboard by dashboard basis, you can pick and choose who can and cannot see each individual dashboard. So you don't have to give people access into every dashboard where they'd end up seeing data they shouldn't. So if we jump to a CFO dashboard here, we're going to get some graphs and some performance indicators and so on that are really, really simple to put out onto these dashboards. So we have a company performance. They've labeled this one. This is your net income. This is your P&L in a line graph form. The top line is my revenue. The bottom line are my expenses. The middle line is my net income. You can see that derived here with the key at the bottom of the report. If we look at what we call performance indicators, internally we call them report cards. So if I say report cards, this is what I'm referring to. We're comparing our services revenue against our budget. We're comparing our total revenue versus the prior month. We're comparing our labor costs versus prior month. And we're showing percentage variances here. If I scroll down a little bit, we'll see more of these. This time we're showing dollar variances, and we've also just changed up the comparative time frame just to show you the flexibility. Like you can really pick and choose what you're comparing against. So that's really great. Like you get these graphs. The dashboards are filterable again by your dimensions. You're always going to get that filterability in Intacct. It's really, really strong. So I could turn this into just a services dashboard by clicking apply here. And we're going to see some drastic changes on some things. My line graph should certainly change fairly drastically. It did. You can see the difference here. My services revenue stayed the same because everything coded. This is my revenue accounts with a filter on it to only show things filtered for the services department. So filtering for services has zero effect on this specific performance indicator because there's already a filter on it. But my total revenue changed. My labor costs actually stayed the same. They must be filtered for services as well. But You can just tell that the filter worked. The line graph is kind of more proof than you really need that the filter worked. Now, these dashboards are really great for a number of reasons. First of all, just what they give you, what you see initially, the high level information in graph form, the important KPI information, just like on a card, like here it is compared against something else. That has value in itself. But where the dashboards bring in some extra value are the filtering, like I just showed. There's a show data on every graph. So if you want to just immediately see a high level summary of the financial dollars themselves instead of just a line graph, you can click on show data. And that holds true for every graph that you're going to see here on my dashboard. You can just hit the show the data. So that's fantastic. But the highest value to it for me is since these graphs are derived from financial reports, they're going to maintain drill down functionality. So I hover over my revenue here and I can see it, right? It's 1.3 million. Might be a little small for you. But if I want to see the details behind that revenue, I can click on that dot that will pop open the revenue portion of my P&L, and there's the 1.3. If I click on an expense dot on my line graph, that will open up the expense portion of my P&L. And if I click on a net income dot, I think everybody can put one and one together here. It's going to open up my full P&L. That's one example of a dashboard. I'll jump to another one. We'll go to the controller's dashboard. We're going to see just a variation here of like the different things that you can do. It's organized differently. There's no graph at the top. We have performance indicators at the top. We don't really have much graph here at all. We have a cash balance trend graph over here, but after that we have a P&L here compared against budget. We're showing our full budget. We're showing our budget year to date. We're showing our actual, and we're showing our, it's filtered. It's just broken out by somebody played with that report on me. I need to fix that one. We have a checklist. So a list of checklists that we have created in our system. You're going to see exactly what a checklist is now in a moment. So if you're wondering that, just give me a moment and you'll see. We've got another report down here that has some conditional formatting built into it. So as the dollar values get higher, their shading gets a little bit darker just to make certain numbers pop out. We've got more reports and we've got some lists of items that need to be approved, important for month end. So they get approved before the month ends. Those are good examples of financial dashboards, but dashboards don't have to be used for financial purposes. If we take a look at a month-end close dashboard, this is almost like a hub for your month-end close. When we come in here, we see our month close checklist. So this is what a checklist is. This is why I said we would see it in a moment. It's a month-end checklist. So it lists out all the different activities we have to perform to complete our month end. It gives it a description, but most importantly, you assign it out to users in your system. And these users can come to this checklist and they can update it themselves so that when you're looking at your month end, you don't have to call Nikki or go to Ryan's office or send Emma an email. You come in and you look at this checklist, and if they're updating it as they should, you have your updates immediately at a glance. You don't have to go looking for emails or making calls to people. You look at the checklist, and if Emma, Ryan, or Nikki have put a note here that warrants a call, maybe something is delayed or maybe they actually haven't started, then you'll call them. So then you're either calling to ask them why they haven't started, and if they have started you say, well, how come you haven't updated the checklist, because now you've wasted a little bit of time, right? So that's the idea, to save you a little bit of time. We have a close through summary here, so it shows us where our periods are closed through in each of our different modules. We have some custom navigation into some month-end activities like reconciling the bank or closing our subledgers. We have some approvals that need to happen. So these are important for month ends and Intacct because none of these post in the system. If they go through an approval policy, they don't post until they're approved. So what that means is now timesheets are actually the exception. Timesheets are the one we can set a rule for where we say, if we approve a timesheet when the month is closed, push it to the next period. But everything else, accounts payable transactions, purchasing documents, purchase orders, purchase requisitions, payments, and employee expenses, if you close your month and then someone tries to approve a transaction in that month, the posting will error out. It will say that period is now closed. So it either needs to get rejected and resubmitted with a date updated on it, or the books need to get opened and then it needs to get approved and then it would post. So that's why they're important for month ends. And that really ties the knot on financial reporting, dashboard functionality, dimensions. We covered a whole lot there really fast. And I know I talk really fast, but we'll get to why in about 15 minutes or so. moving away from these modules, I'm going to talk about the purchasing module in Intacct. Now, the purchasing module is completely intertwined with the AP module, okay? Like vendors are available in both. Something I put in the purchasing module does flow to my AP control account. It does go to my pay bill screen. Purchasing module is just kind of a more powerful AP module. If you don't need the functionality that you see me show today, don't think that you are forced into using the purchasing module. You can use just the core AP module, and it is very powerful. Like if I come in and look at an AP bill that has been posted, as long as my period is open, which this one certainly is, I can update this for any keying errors. I don't have to do journal entries. I don't have to worry about anything like that. So I can just click edit and I can come in and make my changes. Maybe we forgot to tag a project or we forgot to tag a class or it got coded to the wrong department. Like I can make that change and post it as long as I'm given the functionality to do it. It won't let me change this one because it was actually used to create a fixed asset. That's why it won't let me edit this one because the fixed asset module actually created a fixed asset for furniture and fixtures here. So there's that small control. It's just my luck to pull out that one example here. Yeah, I can make changes, saying changes to insurance and click on post, and it'll accept my updates. As I mentioned earlier in the demo, even if something is paid with the AP module, make sure I pick one here. Quick payments is not going to work. Vendor invoice is not going to work. This one should work. Maybe after paying this transaction, you realize that you coded it incorrectly. Maybe it hit the wrong GL account or it was tagged to the wrong department. I know most systems would force you to do a journal entry to fix that keying error. In Intacct, you can come in and click edit, then click reclassify. And now I can make any changes that I want to update the posting. I can change the GL account because that doesn't matter to the vendor. I can change the department because that doesn't affect the vendor in any way. I cannot change the amount because I've made a payment, right? So that's just a really one of the great features of the AP module compared to other systems. But I'm not going to fully demo this module because the purchasing module just hits home with more people for sure. So the purchasing module, what makes it more powerful than the AP module is the ability to create a procurement workflow in the system from start to finish. So you decide what your workflow is, and you can have more than one workflow. You could have 20, 25 workflows in here if that's what you need. So you decide if you want purchase requisitions. I have three different types of purchase requisitions. I have a general purchase requisition. I have what we call a quote, and I have a travel authorization. When I get to my purchase orders, I have a generic PO. I have a PO for an inventory purchase. I have a PO with spend management, which is another module in the system. I have a blanket PO, and I have an insertion order. Then I have a receipt of shipment. So you'd only really use the receipt option if you're doing a PO for inventory most times, right? So you can record the inventory coming in, go to GRNI, and then you move along to different types of vendor invoices. Now, if you don't want purchase requisitions, if you just want POs, you don't have to have purchase requisitions. If you don't want POs, you don't have to have them. I have some clients that have neither of these three steps. They just use the vendor invoice functionality. And the reason that they would do that is the approvals. The in-system approvals are stronger and more flexible in the purchasing module than they are in the AP module. So that is a lot of times one of the reasons we see people go to the purchasing module instead of AP. Now, as a note, the purchasing module is free out of the box, just like AP is. It does not cost any extra money. And that is also why we have three different types of purchase requisitions in here. A couple of reasons, probably, right? Like just like different scenarios that each would be used for, but also the ability to put a different approval policy on my generic purchase requisition compared to my quote or compared to my travel authorization. The ability to put a different approval policy on my POs than my POs for inventory or my POs with spend management. So each document can actually have a different purchasing approval workflow assigned to it. Using this workflow, you're going to get some nice little shortcuts converting documents from one to the other. That is going to create a match of the documents together in the system. So you get your nice two-way match, three-way match, four-way match, and it's going to have a really strong audit trail of the approval policy and the approval process. So the way we can route approvals in the purchasing module, they can be vendor based, so you can base it off of the vendor that is entered in the system. It can be value based, so you set different level thresholds, like level one could be 0 to 15,000, but level one could also be 0 to 25,000. You set the levels. What is level one? What is level two? What is level three, four, five? You can route them directly to particular people. Like you can just say the next step in this approval policy is it goes directly to Matthew, right? Or directly to Neil. Like you pick specific people or groups of people. There are ways to create groups and send it to a group. Or you can leverage the dimensional values, which is where a lot of people end up landing. So certain dimensions in the system, the department dimension, the location dimension, the project dimension, the employee dimension, all four of those dimensions allow you to assign managers to each individual item in that dimensional list. So if we look at my admin department, I can see the manager is Nikki, right? If I look at my project listing, I can pick a project. And if I look at this project, I can see the manager of this project is Ryan. Now, I don't need to know that when I'm coding, right? It saves me from having to need to know where each document should go for approval, as it should be triggered by, internal policies. So if I come in here and I set up a PO for approval, and I'm just going to do a quick double check on the approval policy that is on that PR, because I really want you to just kind of see how the system does it. Manage my approval policies, my purchase requisition. What is my purchase requisition set up to do? See, my purchase requisition currently is going to just groups of people. What I'm going to tell the system is I want level one to go to my transaction department manager. After that, I want it to go to the project manager. After that, I'm going to have it go to a particular user, and I'll make that user be Emma. After that, I'm going to do value approval. Now, there are two different types of value approval in here. The value approval can be direct or progressive. So I'll explain to you what I mean as I'm setting it up here, kind of. So if I look at my progressive value approval, what progressive means is if I put in a transaction that is above $100,000, it's going to go to level one, then to level two, then to level three, then to level four. If I had direct on, like not the progressive, and I put something in that is over 100,000, it's just going to go right to level four. It's going to skip over the head of levels one, two, and three. That's all we mean by progressive and non-progressive. I'm going to go ahead and save that. I'm going to click on done. I'm gonna click on cancel here, and then I'm gonna click on save here. And when I come back out and I submit this for approval, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this in what I believe is gonna be level three of my approval policy. I'm gonna put in for 75,000. I'm gonna click submit. Now I don't need to know myself who the manager of each of those different items are. I pick the items that are relevant to the transaction and I submit it and I let the system do the rest. So this is the purchase requisition that I just entered. You can see it's in a state of submitted. If I click on the word submitted, I can get some audit trail information about it, like who it was entered by and when it was entered. We all know the answer to that right now. It was me and now, but it's saved here and you can see it's saved here. Don't pay too much attention to the time. This is varies based off of the company settings and my personal preferences. I don't have that fine-tuned, but it does stamp it with the time. But if I click on the approval history, you can see that the system has done what we expected. It has looked up which department was tagged at the line level. It has found out that Mark is the approver of that, and it has sent it to Mark for approval. And then after it goes to Mark, it's going to go to the project manager of that project, which is Ryan. After it goes to Ryan, it's going to go to Emma. And then after that, it's going to go through my progressive value approval. I don't know why it says it's going to go to level four here. Maybe I looked at something wrong. Maybe I made a keying error, but you get the audit trail on your approval policy. We see another state here of pending. So you see the word pending. What pending means is this transaction's gotten entered. It's gone through any approval policy required. It's been approved and it's ready to move on to the next stage of our workflow to have a purchase order created or whatever it may be. And to do that, I don't have to look up the old one and look at any data. I'm going to get to see it anyway. I just click convert on my purchase requisition and I say this is being converted into either a blanket PO or a regular purchase order. The system will copy all of the information off of my primary document and bring it into me here. And I can fill in any additional information that is required. Maybe we didn't receive all of the hours. Maybe we're only being billed for a half hour instead of a full hour. I can change the quantity, which will affect my prior document will get partially converted and not fully converted. So we can handle partial conversions and back orders and things like that as well. And then I would be able to submit it for approval. So that's what pending means. And converted would mean, this has already happened. Now, there's some value in the state of converted. If you want to see how far along in the process a document has been converted, you can click on the word converted, and that will bring you in and tell you. This was first created as a purchase requisition. Eventually, purchase requisition 0016 was converted into PO 00117, and it was converted from purchase requisition 16. And eventually, purchase order 117 was converted into the vendor invoice 108. So you see your full three-way match here. You can get to any of these documents, and this audit trail, this three-way match, is available on any three of the documents. So right now I'm on the purchase requisition. If I go back to the vendor invoice, click on the vendor invoice to drill into the vendor invoice, it brings me to the vendor invoice. And if I want to see those exact same details, I can just use my history tab and I can again tell. So you always get that really strong audit trail in your workflow, which is really, really great. It's something that a lot of people are looking for. Even after a document has been converted, if the original document did go for any type of approval, that history does lie there as well. I will find one here. The approval policies tend to be turned on and off in these environments. So this is still one that's submitted. Let me see if I find one that's converted here. I found my approval policy. So this one's converted, it's gone to the purchase order stage, but the purchase requisition did go for approval, right? If we want to see what approval policy did it follow, we can still see that data. So first it was going to Mark for approval, then it was going to Tom, and then it was supposed to go to Vincent. Now you might notice over to the right that this got approved by me. They all got approved by me. And that brings me to another point of the demo. Something, a question we always get is, what if somebody's out of office unexpectedly? What if we have an emergency purchase? How do we sidestep our approval policy? And the answer is there are a couple of ways. You can set up delegations. So if somebody knows they're going on vacation, or if somebody goes and forgets to set their delegation, somebody can set it for them. So, there's always the delegation option. But the most powerful is what we call the admin approver. So if I go to the approved transaction screen right now, which is where approvers go to approve their transactions, I don't see anything because nothing's assigned to me for approval. If an emergency purchase happened or someone was out of office unexpectedly and we really needed to get a document through our workflow, an admin in your system would be able to come into the purchasing configuration. They would be able to come down to the admin approver and they would be able to pick an admin approver and save it. And this functionality I don't ever have on all the time because it results in things being approved inadvertently. It's something you come turn on when you need it, and after you use it, you go back and you turn it off. If I come back to my approval screen here, you see I have nothing to approve, and I refresh my screen. Now that I'm set as the admin approver, my screen will have any document there that is awaiting approval available for me to approve. And I would be able to go ahead and do that and approve it. And I should leave a note, right? If we're overriding the standard approval policy, we should certainly leave a note. I just want to see who is this supposed to follow? Yeah, this is the one we just set up. I could click approve and I could leave a note like Mark and Ryan are both out sick. Emma is in meetings all day, emergency purchase. And I can click approve on that transaction. Now, if I go back to that transaction again, the audit trail there is really strong, which I think is really, really valuable. If we click on approval history, we see that it got overridden by me, and my note comes through and says, this is why we overrode the approval policy today and why we're going to keep pushing this through our workflow. And then I would come back and I would go ahead and turn off that admin approver functionality. And that more or less brings me to the end of the purchasing module. Now, what I want to say before I open up the floor for questions is you might have noticed that I'm talking really fast. And while I'm not talking overly fast for myself, because I am from Newfoundland and we are notorious for talking pretty quickly, I don't make as much of an effort to slow down on this weekly demo as I do on my generic demos because I'm so strapped for time. Intacct is way too vast for me to demo through and through by any means in an hour. I could spend an hour on the purchasing module alone. Like what I showed you today in the purchasing module is like the core functionality. There are so many other like bells and whistles that you can turn on in this module. such as converting transactions by price instead of by quantity. Turning on match tolerances. So, if we put in a purchase requisition and when we receive the PO, it's more than 5 or 10%, you set the percentage, right? You get to determine the quality, quantity, or price variance percent. If it's more than 5% higher than the original purchase requisition, then we need to send it back for approval and it needs to get eyes set on it again. We can convert multiple documents into one document. So if you have 5 POs that you get one invoice for, you can convert all 5 POs into one invoice. We can handle price schedules and fixed vendor discounts and automatic price variance posting from the standard pricing, like a whole lot of things. AP automation in the purchasing module, just a whole lot of different things we can talk about even in the purchasing module alone. So what I like to say is I don't want anybody to leave today thinking that they saw all of Intacct. I don't even like to say we've scratched the surface of Intacct today. We've really just like glossed over the surface of it at a very high rate and at a very high level, some just core functionality. The modules that I did talk about today, as you just seen with the purchasing module, there's different options that I could spend in all of those modules and spend an hour in there alone. But on top of that, there's modules that I didn't even get to mention. Like we didn't talk anything about AR, but of course there's an AR module. It is pretty well a twin of the AP module. And similar to how the purchasing module is a more powerful AP module, the order entry module is to purchasing what AR is to AP, right? So you get that full sales workflow. But outside of that, there's modules such as your cash management module where we can handle your bank recs in the system. There's global consolidations for consolidating financial statements with different currencies. There's multi-currency functionality. There's a fixed asset management solution available here where you create your fixed asset from the bill that you enter. It generates your depreciation schedules and posts your depreciation month over month. There's an inventory control module where as long as you're not doing manufacturing, it's a pretty strong inventory module that we could spend an hour here alone talking about. There is a contracts module where we can handle revenue contracts, mostly used for SaaS type businesses. Revenue contracts, please keep that in mind. If it's catching your ear, it is for revenue-based contracts, not like vendor contracts. There's an employee expense module. There's a project costing and billing module that tracks your clients or your employees' billable time, track utilization rates, billable rates, all that good stuff. There's a full-blown revenue recognition module in here where you can set up your revenue recognition templates and put it on the invoice as you're keying it, and then let the system record your revenue month over month for whatever time period it's for. There's late payment notices that can be triggered out of the system. Intacct calls them dunning notices, but this is, hey, you haven't paid us, please pay us type of deal, different levels of that. Just a vast amount of other modules that we could spend a lot of time talking about in this system. So please keep that in mind that we're just really showing some of the core here today. If you want to see anything in depth a little bit more, or there are things you were hoping to see that you didn't get to see because it's not something we usually cover on our weekly demo, please just let us know and we'd be happy to do a more personalized and a more focused demo to get into the functionalities that would really make a difference for you. And with that, I will thank you all for coming out and listening to me ramble very quickly for an hour, and I'll answer any questions we may have. I do see a hand. And I think Cheryl, we don't get anybody take themselves off mute very often, so I apologize if I get excited and put you on the spot, but it's exciting.
Okay, so I have several questions
Sure.
because we've never seen the whole system, but so with just the purchasing system itself, it creates a vendor invoice. What happens to the original invoice and what happens when there's a difference between the invoices? Like say for instance, hotels have different taxes and you know what I mean? Like, because this, like, you create a purchase order, but it's just for the general cost, but it's not necessarily matches up to the actual invoice.
Yeah, so that's okay in a sense that, the PO, in that case, you would convert your PO off of a quantity probably rather than a price, where, the PO is it's kind of like a soft PO, right? Like maybe
Yeah.
it doesn't have the taxes, maybe, it's a little generic or it's a blanket PO, but we don't create the invoice until you get the actual invoice. So you convert the PO into the invoice at that point in time. The invoice doesn't have to exactly match the PO. that setting is available. You can turn it on if you want to say my invoice does have to match my PO. Like it is possible to say that it does have to, but it doesn't have to inherently. Because of course, like maybe you don't put a lot of my clients, I don't display taxes on the PO. It's not a posting document. We don't care
Yeah.
about taxes at that point in time, right? So your invoice is going to have taxes on it, but your PO doesn't. That's perfectly okay. That doesn't cause any issues in the system whatsoever.
So you can match the system created invoice to your actual invoice, and then you can process from there. And can you upload your actual invoices into the system so you have
Yeah,
it all online?
you absolutely can. On almost every screen in the system, certainly almost every transactional screen, but also like vendors, customers, projects, you have this attachment drop down right here.
Okay, well,
Now, an attachment in Intacct doesn't have to be a single file. An attachment in Intacct can be multiple files. You can do a couple of things. You can click and drag. Like I can click and drag a file and drop it here. You didn't see me do the click and drag, but I did. I clicked and dragged a file and you see it's here now, right? And if I click on view, it will show me the Excel file that I chose to bring in. But you can also like browse your system and grab many files. I can grab like 5 files at once. I'm not going to click open on these because they shouldn't be in a demo environment, but I
yeah,
could put
yeah.
multiple files here.
That's
And that,
great because
yep,
that way when an auditor gets the system, we don't have to give them physical copies of everything. It's all in the system.
the joke I always make is I used to hate those really good thick paper cuts you'd get from those file folders. Oh, I used to super glue them. So you won't have to rifle through your file folders to find hard copies of invoices anymore. When the auditor says, "Hey, can I see this invoice?" You say, "Yeah, click that button." Right there it is.
No more big filing cabinets.
Yeah.
Um, Another question I have is, can you run reports on typical type of business? Like, say, for instance, you deal with a lot of hotel and travel costs, and I want to just run a report on all the types of travel, like, or hotel charges for the year.
Would you base that? So the answer is
Have
yes, right?
vendors buy a certain type of vendor,
Yeah, there
like,
you go. Yeah, there are many different ways we could do this in Intake, just so you know. But you found like the core way. On your vendors, there's a field called type, and you choose what's available in this vendor type, right? And then I can, leveraging that field, I can create what are called dimensional groups. And then based on any report you want to run, I can say run it just for my vendors that are type hotels or type hotels and general trade, right? You can really pick and choose. So yeah, like isolating that type of data in Intacct is just a breeze compared to anything else I've ever put my fingers on.
awesome. For the reports that you ran, I saw that you ran a lot of like year-to-date reports. What about project-to-date reports where you have multi-year projects?
So it's fully doable. Currently in Intacct, it's a little bit different than you would see out of a lot of systems. Like a lot of systems, especially systems that I used in my time, when you went to run a report, like any financial report, a P&L, it didn't really run off reporting periods on your columns, right? When you went click to run that report, there was a from date and a to date, right?
Yep.
Not just an as of date. Intacct currently doesn't have that from date and that to date. It is ran off of reporting periods. Well, there are a couple of workarounds. The first is for something like your projects that span across multiple years, I would run it off of a reporting period that is called inception to date. So it would run from day one up until today or whatever as of date you put in. And of course, that project probably didn't start at your inception of your system, but it's in the inception, obviously, because inception is everything. So it would pick up everything. The other thing that you can do is you can create custom reporting periods fairly quickly, right? I can come in here and say, I want to add a custom reporting period. And I just call this test 1, 2, 3 and test, I give a column headers. And I can say, this is from 05/01/2023 until 09/30/2025. And I can save that reporting period. And now I would be able to go to a financial report and I would be able to modify my report to run for that specific period,
Yeah.
regardless of the as of date that I put in. Now, that becomes a very static type reporting period on my report. Now, I want you to know that I fully understand that having to create those periods and come in and modify a report and add it here, not the ideal workaround for running reports on financial reports on projects that span across multiple periods. It's a really big ask on the Sage community right now. The Sage community, I call that test one, two,
Something to
three,
work towards.
right? So the Intacct community is a spot where, as a user, every user that has Intacct gets access into the community. And part of the community, something you can do on the community is create an idea, something, it's called an idea. It's really a suggestion for a product enhancement. But the first thing you always do when you come in here is you search to see if your idea exists or not. Dynamic start and end dates. I've already searched this many times. I had the answer at my fingertips because you're far from the first person to ask me this question. You can come in and find an idea. If the idea doesn't already exist, you could post it yourself, right? And we have dynamic start and end dates. So somebody has suggested this. It has gathered a whole lot of upvotes. It has gathered quite a few comments. Now, unfortunately, with this specific idea, Sage kind of thinks that they have solved it and they've closed out this idea. They say it's not planned and they say to use inception to date, but it's not, it doesn't really cover all the bases. And even after they've closed it, people have been coming here. You see, I commented on it back in 2023. This is me, right? So it's something that we might see in the system eventually. It's not there right now, but again, there is a working enough
Okay.
workaround to make it possible. Like it's not ideal. It is a little tedious. It is a little too manual, but it is doable, I guess, right? Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I still have a few more
You ask
questions.
away.
The purchase orders,
Yeah.
when you create them, can you email them directly to the vendor through the system?
Yeah, absolutely. You can do them in bulk or you can do them one by one. So you see, I have here print or email transactions.
Okay.
I can come into the system and I can say I want to email out my purchase orders and I set some filters up above, right? And that would bring in everything to be emailed out. Or you can go directly to a specific purchase order itself and click on print or email and email it out one by one. Don't pay too much attention that there's no email address here. Demo environment. There's no
Yep.
email on that vendor. If there was, it would be there.
Great. And the system does close off each month, right? So you have the capability to do that so that, because
Yeah.
currently we're using Sage 50 and it only has a year-end close. It doesn't have a period close.
Nope, very close. So you can close off. Not only that, if you want to do a soft close while you're going through, like, you're always doing a soft close, whether you do it in your system or not, but you always go through like AP first, then AR. So when you're finished up with AP and you say, okay, I'm done AP, but I still need to do my GL and my AR, but I don't want anybody else touching AP, but I still need to do journal entries. You can close just AP and you can go do some journal entries. Now you close AR, you can close cash management, you can close employee expenses. And if you do it from the GL level, if you close from the GL level, it closes all your subledgers as well. And you can reopen them at any point in time, of course, as well. But yeah, you can close your periods off one by one.
Great. And then the GL reports that you create through the system or any of the reports, you can save the templates. So like I can run, say for instance, I want to run a report on a specific department. So I have all the different accounts that or departments that I want to run. And it's a monthly report that I print off every month so I can just save it and maybe change the periods or something.
Yep. It's called Memorize. And I'll do you one better. In Intacct, you can create report groups and you can schedule them to run automatically. And you can say what the cadence is, how often it runs. So you can say monthly on this day. And you can also trigger it to run that group based off of when you click on the close button for your period. So as you click close, your report groups run and email them to you or save them somewhere in the system in Excel.
Cool. Two more questions. Accruals. Does the system capable of doing a reverse entry automatically?
Yep. So as you're doing a general ledger journal entry, you can put in an automatic reversal date.
Awesome. That's cool because right now I can't do that. And
Oh,
then
how many times did I get to my month end and not remember to reverse my accruals? And sure, it takes me like 10 minutes, but you're just kind of like, damn it. It's got
I
to go back in.
know you need to
Yeah,
automate it. And
yeah,
then another quick question is Visa transactions. So like
yeah.
we have a lot of Visa stuff and we don't
Hmm.
necessarily set up vendors for all those things, but we input them as like a one type of vendor. And then we have to reconcile those. And I guess we have what it's called a visa authorization form, similar to a purchase order. And I know that you have those different like purchase requisitions and stuff like that. We could add a like a visa authorization, but how does that happen? Does it have capability for one type of vendors and stuff like that? Or
It
like
does. Yeah,
one-off?
it does have one-off vendors. You can call it, they're called one-time use vendors. All it does, if you set a vendor up as a one-time use, if you set a vendor up as a one-time use, it just doesn't show on your primary, it doesn't show up on your
It's not a
primary
normal
list.
vendor per se because we're not getting invoiced from them.
Yeah, I know. You can Intacct does also have a module for handling credit cards where you just put in the different credit cards that you have in the system. And when you're coding your credit card transactions, you don't even have to choose a vendor. You say, I'm doing a credit card transaction on this credit card. And what it does is it puts the amount, instead of the amount going in your AP, it goes into your credit card payable, right? You see, I picked the credit card, but I don't have to pick a vendor. Now I can still tag a vendor at my line level if I want to be able to track that info, but I don't have to pick a vendor. The problem with this module is credit cards are a really tough thing to solve everybody's problem for, right? Like as an accountant, credit cards were like the bane of my existence. Really difficult to get people's receipts. They're so uncontrolled. There's transactions everywhere. They're difficult to reconcile. So I've handled credit cards and Intacct in a number of different ways, honestly. Like I've tried out different ways to try to lessen the pain that my clients were dealing with credit cards because again, they take up time every single month. There are a number of different ways we can handle it. My recommendation is always Intacct has what's called an open API, right? Which means it will let you integrate your Intacct with any other solution that has an API. And there are many, many, many out there nowadays. That's the way the world is going. And like a system built specifically for handling credit cards, like an Expensify or a Bill.com, links in Intacct. So your credit card holders, they take a picture of their receipt, they send it to Bill.com, Bill.com codes it out, and then Bill.com pushes it into Intacct automatically. Like that type of integration is available as well. That is the best way to solve the credit card pain points that everybody has. Otherwise, there are a few different ways we could handle it in here for you. I've handled it through AP. I've used the core credit card module. Just a number of different ways you could do it. But yeah, exactly
And can
how.
you, so in this credit card transaction, can you, oh yeah. Oh, you can do attachment, I see. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then, like you mentioned through the vendor list, you have that one-time vendors. Can you set up a list of one-type vendors that stay there so that you can, like, if we choose to do it that way, where you can just select those one-type vendors rather than having to input them each time?
Yeah, so they
You
actually they
separate
actually
from the
do they
regular
do
list?
stay there. They stay there automatically, but what they do is they don't show on your primary list of vendors unless you
Right.
click the checkbox to show me my one-time use. So they can
Okay,
always be
that's
used
great.
over and over and over. They're just by default filtered out of your primary list.
That's
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
Okay, that's it for my questions. Awesome,
Awesome.
thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for not being. I think you're like the third person that's ever come off mute and talked to me on this live demo. So you kind of made my
Really?
day a little bit. Yeah.
Oh,
Everybody's
wow.
always so shy on these demos.
Right on.
Well, I
Oh,
appreciate it very much.
oh,
Sorry,
Jesse, my coworker here has a couple of questions. Sorry.
sure, go ahead.
This wasn't talked about, but kind of like the purchase orders where you can see the changes or like the approvals. Can you also see that like within invoices? Because like if I'm going in an invoice and let's say I've already posted it, but oh I got the wrong date down, so I go back and to edit it. Can we see those changes after we like later on in a future date? If that makes sense.
Like the fact that it was posted and then somebody made a change to it.
Yeah, because I would put like a new journal number. So I'll be like, okay, it was changed. And when I go look back to it, I'm like, what exactly changed? Because it doesn't show like that
Yeah.
changed the date.
So on every screen in Intact, vendors, customers, but like almost every screen where you create something,
Oh,
there is the
no.
audit trail. Now the core audit trail itself is a little bit spotty. On certain screens, it will always tell you what was changed. On other screens, it tends not to. With the core audit trail, like this is out of box free. There is in the system what's called the advanced audit trail module, which would really track anything and everything that always gets changed. So there is the option to do it out of the box. Some screens do tell you what changed, some screens don't tell you what's changed, but every screen will tell you if something was changed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
And one more question. I quickly looked online and I see that there's also a program like Sage Intacct Payroll.
Yeah,
Is
so it's actually through ADP.
ADP. Okay.
Yeah. Now there are other payroll solutions because
Yeah.
kind of starting to feel by the way you said OADP that maybe we share
No, no,
some,
no. I just
well,
I was talking to that other gentleman this morning because he called me before this and we
Criterion.
discussed
Did he mention Criterion?
yeah, Criterion
Yeah,
and then Paymate and
Paymate, Harmony
there's a
Paymate.
lot of different programs, yeah.
There's a lot of different ones. If you go to the Sage Intacct Marketplace, this is public domain. This is not me logging in anywhere. You could just Google Sage Intacct Marketplace and you do a search for payroll. You'll see a list of things here that this means they already have integrations built with Intacct, and this means that Sage has kind of like verified them. If you don't see somebody here, that doesn't mean that they can't integrate with Intacct or they don't have an integration built. They very well may have an integration built. But the other thing that we have at Vision 33 is a program called Saltbox. So if you have a payroll solution that you really, really like and it has an open API, our Saltbox is an integration platform as a service, which means we can build an integration between any two systems that have open APIs. So if you're married to a payroll solution that you really, really like, and you'd want that to integrate with Intacct, if it has an open API, our Saltbox team can build an integration between them. Now, it obviously has a cost associated with it. I know I'm doing a sales demo, but I am not commission based in any way whatsoever. $0 that I bring home is commission based. I'm just giving you all the information that you need so you can make decisions you want.
Awesome. Cool. Oh, I did have one more question. When, and I guess I'm going to be getting a quote for this, but when we decide to go this route, can Vision or Sage Intacct provide us with a write-up on to sell the like how you're selling it to us, but a write-up on why this would be beneficial for us to change so that we could potentially sell this to a funder or funders, depending on because we got to look for funding for it. So
Yeah.
and we can create it ourselves, but I mean, if you have something that's in writing already in writing or something that we could use, that would be great.
So we don't have anything already because it would vary so much from client to client. Like it's kind of like what are you doing now compared to what we can do for you in Intacct and what kind of difference it's going to make and what kind of effect
Yeah.
that'll have on the ROI, right? Like how much time are we going to save you and how much kind of like I'll call it a sunk cost, even though it's not a sunk cost, but like your payroll, like how much people time, how much people value is that going to free up? You know, if you currently spend 50 hours doing something a month and now it's only going to take you 5, we've saved you X amount of dollars because that's your staff can now work on other things and do things that are more valuable, right?
Yeah.
So we often do things like that. I don't know how much of a full like write up it is. I'm really not involved in any more of the sales process other than providing the demos. But I do know it's something that we have done in the past, so I'm sure it's something that we could do to help. A salesperson will do anything for a sale, so you just ask your salesperson. I'm sure he'll give you whatever you need there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you
Awesome.
so much. You have
I'm
a
sure I'll
wonderful
have
day.
more, but thank you very much.
yes,
No,
thank you.
you're very welcome. You have a great day.
You too.
All right, bye
Bye.
now. See ya.